Hi everybody, I'm going to show you how to build the Ghostscale business card badge that we'll be building at SecretCon this year. The badge well, it's my business card with our new company Ghostscale. And what it is it is a ESP32 connected to a micro SD card. And then we can pre-program it with a variety of different things, but what we'll be doing at the conference is programming it with the ESP32 Marauder software, which lets you do Wi-Fi and Bluetooth attacks. So the parts that will be kind of in the kit at the conference are business card, an ESP32 dev board, micro SD module, and then a few headers to connect those together. And to help with the soldering, I actually will have templates there that look like this. So we're going to take the template, add the headers onto the template. So I should call it a jig rather than the template. And then we're going to line up the two cards so they look identical. And push that in. And once we've done that, we're ready to solder. Now, if you haven't soldered before, we're going to have a bunch of soldering stations at the conference. We'll kind of show you how to do it, but I wanted to get some kind of good tips and tricks here. So the first one is I've got my soldering iron here, and you didn't see me do it, but I also have my soldering station with this copper that lets me clean the tip. And you want to keep your tip clean. That copper does a really nice job. We can see that that tip is kind of bright and shiny now, which means everything's going to work pretty well. And we can see we're going to solder all these pins, and all these pins. So the trick to soldering, the biggest mistake people make is that they heat the solder and not the part. Now the trick is to heat the part, not the solder. And that's because if I heat the part, that part's going to get hot, and then when I touch the solder to it, it's just going to draw that solder in and make a nice connection. You probably can't see that very well, but what it's done is made a nice little kind of volcano shape. No globs, but it was hot enough to kind of suck some solder in. And again, notice how I do that. I hold the soldering iron to the place where I want, and I can, there's no rush here. I can seat that with that there. It's not going to break anything if I wait a little bit and just bring in the solder. So you see I'm not pulling the soldering iron away until I've already finished introducing the solder. So you can just go down the whole line, doing that one after another. Check the focus on everything here. That's pretty good. So again, you're really using the tip, and it's getting a little harder, but you can see my tip isn't very shiny anymore either, and that's making it harder as well. So I clean that off, shine it up. Now it'll transfer heat a lot faster, and you can see how quickly this is going now that I've cleaned the tip. Do these ones as well. But again, just heat the part, bring in the solder, pull the solder away, pull the soldering iron away. Alright, all those are done. We can turn over here to do these. Now I've done this a lot, so you shouldn't be expecting to go this quickly if it's your first time. And one trick I'll show you too, if a solder joint's not very good, you can just go back and clean it up. So I'm just going to go back and hold the solder iron to this one, and that'll just melt the solder and pull it down in. If you do make the mistake and get too much solder on something, we'll do that on purpose here. So I've got see, I can't even do it really that easily. But if you get a big glob, you can kind of scrape it away with the soldering iron, clean the tip to get the extra off of there. We do have some tools to get extra solder off as well if that's not working for you, but for these boards, just kind of using the soldering iron to scrape some solder away, clean it off the tip, and then come back should work for most people. Alright, and that's all we're going to solder here. Set this aside. So now we've got all of our connections soldered. We can take the jig off. We're done with that for now. Alright, so now we've got our board. To assemble it, we're going to take our ESP32 module and line it up so the antenna lines up with the antenna and the USB lines up with this kind of square at the end. Just press that down into that hole. And we're going to take this micro SD card module, line that up as well, push it into the holes. And then your kit doesn't come with a micro SD card, but if you're watching this before the conference, you can bring one along. And now that's assembled and ready to go. I'll do a little bit here on in a minute on what to do with it now that it's assembled. Thanks. Hi everyone. Okay, so we just finished showing how to assemble the Ghostscale business card board for SecretCon. Now I'm going to show you how we put the ESP32 Marauder software on the card. So for some background, ESP32 Marauder is a suite of Wi-Fi and Bluetooth hacking tools for these ESP32 boards, and actually for a bigger device called a Marauder that has its heart, but we can kind of piggyback on them and build a basic Marauder tool with just the ESP32 or the ESP32 and the micro SD card. On the website, on the wiki here, we can find instructions for uploading the firmware and some of the commands and type of utilities it can run. So for us to upload the firmware, we're first going to connect it via the USB port. There we go. And then we're going to open a command prompt. And the first command we're going to run is the one called mode, M-O-D-E. Because what mode does is it tells us what's connected to COM ports, which is so nice. So we can see there's this new device connection on COM4. So now we know we're going to need to program this device on COM4. I have a programming command. So basically, I downloaded the ESP32, or I git cloned the ESP32 Marauder software locally, and I made a few tweaks to it, compiled it with the Arduino IDE, and that's what I'm writing to this board now, but you can just use the firmware right off the website as well. But we need to change here at the very beginning of my programming command that we're going to do COM4 as the port. And we'll hit enter, and if we're lucky, it's going to find that board. It's going to start writing all the programs to it. Goes pretty quick. And if it's done, we'll see the resetting. Okay, so now we want to see if it's working. To see if it's working, we're going to use PuTTY to connect to that serial port, and again that was COM4. So it'll be on the same serial port after it reboots, or after it's configured as it was when we configured it. And we click open there, and what we can see now is it's loading, and there it's just showed us. Actually, I'm going to disconnect this so we can show what happened. Oh, I can't disconnect. Well, I can disconnect this way by pulling the cord. Alright. So, the reason I want to disconnect is we can see, I'll make this a little larger as well. Change settings. Alright, that should make it a little easier to see what we're up to here. Alright, so powered on, loaded the firmware, and then we get the banner. And then actually the next thing we see here is, I told you I downloaded and modified the firmware. I've actually added an extra feature where if you put a file named autoexec.bat on the micro SD card, as soon as it loads, it'll look for that file and grab the command out of it and run that command. So this is really nice. I use this for like war driving. I can take this in the car just as it is, and as soon as I plug it into a USB port or power it on with a battery, it starts sniffing here, sniffing for PMKIDs on channel 1, and then I can take those later offline and go, you know, try to crack them with Hashcat or something like that. Let's reconnect here. And maybe we'll run a few extra commands just to show some of the things this can do. So I'm going to restart this session. And I can type stop scan. And it'll stop that scan. And now we can help. And it'll list some of the different commands we can run. So I was using this sniff pmkid command. War drive will just collect data. I can send different attacks. The evil portal lets me create like a basically a Wi-Fi hotspot that tries to collect credentials when people try to connect to it. So a few different things here. I can ls what's actually on my micro SD card, and you can see I've got a number of PCAP files captures that I've been doing, testing out the board recently. So pretty fun stuff. We hope to see you at SecretCon to build one of these of your own for free. I think I forgot to mention that, but we're giving away these kits and sitting people down to assemble them for free if you're at SecretCon. So we hope to see you there. Thanks. Bye.